What if a simple four-word compliment could actually peel back the curtain on a really deep-seated bias in our society? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to explore a super powerful reflection on beauty and perception that all starts with just one little comment, but it ends with a massive question about what we really value. So here it is, just four words. You look very lovely. I mean, on the surface, that's just a nice thing to say, right? It made the person who received it smile. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that this compliment wasn't quite as simple as it looked. There was something else going on, a whole hidden story packed into those few words. And this is where it gets really interesting. Here's the twist. She had this light bulb moment where she realized the compliment wasn't really for her. The person was just living her life, doing chores, hair up, no big deal. Nope, it was for the polished, camera-ready version of herself. And that realization sparked a really powerful question. Who or maybe what was actually being complimented here? So this really lays out the two sides of the coin, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the public self, all made up, ready for the camera, the one getting all the praise. And on the other side, there's the private self, the person at home, just being natural. The real question this whole thing brings up is, why does our society seem to put so much more value on one over the other? It's a huge question. Okay, so from this one personal realization, the idea starts to snowball into a much, much harsher critique of our society's values as a whole. And to really drive the point home, the creator walks us through a pretty challenging thought experiment. Okay, let's just imagine for a second a person who only values what she calls parlor-level beauty. You know what that means? Super polished, professionally done, totally superficial. So what happens when someone with that mindset, who only values the surface, comes across a woman in her natural, everyday, unadorned state? And wow, there it is. That is a shocking and incredibly powerful line. And look, this analogy is absolutely meant to be jarring. It's designed to expose a really brutal kind of judgment, where a woman's natural look isn't just seen as, less attractive. No, it's seen as less valuable than a maid's. It's a comparison specifically chosen to completely devalue her as a person. So the big takeaway here isn't just about whether someone prefers makeup or not. That's not the point. What she's really getting at is a super deep-seated cultural bias. This idea that a woman's fundamental worth, her very identity, is somehow tied to how much she decorates the outside. So if you take away the decoration, this mindset suggests you're also taking away her value. It's a heavy concept. All right, so where does this kind of thinking lead? Well, it can have some pretty serious consequences, especially when you think about long-term relationships. I mean, what happens when you build a whole connection on something that can literally be washed away with a little soap and water? And this timeline lays out a pretty tragic story. So day one of a marriage, right? The bride is beautiful, she's celebrated for how she looks. But then, the next day, the makeup comes off, and the perception starts to shift. The creator's argument is that fast forward a year, and that same person can end up being seen as the maid of the house, valued only for what she does, not for who she is. Yeah, the message here is pretty stark. If a relationship is built only on an illusion, it's like a house built on sand. It's just fundamentally fragile. Once that polished exterior is gone, you have to ask, what's actually left to hold it all together? Okay, so if building on external beauty is such a flawed plan, then what's the alternative? The solution being proposed here is a really radical shift in focus. It's about turning away from the outside and looking to the inside. And this is the core idea right here. The body is not an object for display. It's a powerful statement. The creator is basically saying that the human body isn't some product to be decorated and put out there for everyone to judge or approve of. Its real purpose, its real value, lies somewhere else entirely. And this leads to a really powerful counter-narrative. True, lasting value, it doesn't come from the parts of us we polish, the face, the hair, you name it. No, it comes from the one part of us that doesn't need any external decoration at all. It comes from our inner self, our character, our heart. So this is the ultimate call to action. The real work isn't about polishing our faces. It's about cleaning and purifying our hearts. Because a pure inner self is beautiful on its own terms. It doesn't need a single bit of validation from the outside world. So to wrap it all up, the argument is simple but powerful. When you focus on your inner self, on that clean heart, you're building a foundation of worth that's actually authentic. And
maybe most importantly, it's permanent. We're talking about a kind of beauty that doesn't fade overnight, that you can't just wash away in the sink. That is the true, unshakable source of a person's value.
And that really leaves us with one last big question to think about. This whole journey started with a simple compliment, and it ended up being a really profound critique of what we value. So it kind of forces us to ask ourselves, right? In a world that is so obsessed with the surface, why do we so often chase the polished appearance instead of the authentic reality? That's definitely something worth thinking about.